Welcome back. I hope that your regional session was as fun as ours was. We took a tour around the world in wine and learned a whole lot. In fact, one of the wines that we tasted just happened to be from a winery where my wife and I spent part of our honeymoon. So that was quite the treat to have a little bit of that. How was the session in Dallas? I hope it was enjoyable, as well as Chicago, as well as our virtual programming. I'm hoping you had a great time. If you didn't, don't tell anybody. No, because we're going to make up for it with this next program that we've got. But before we do, I want to remind you again to please download the conference app, because after the event, we're going to ask you to provide some feedback on the sessions. We're going to ask you to provide some feedback on the experience, on the presenters, and talk about the programming that you want to have next year. So if you didn't enjoy today's programming, it's your fault because you didn't provide feedback last time. I'm teasing. It's probably not your fault, but next time it will be. So let's make sure that the experience you have is the experience you want by downloading that conference app and providing some feedback after the event today. It really does help us provide you impactful, valuable, and engaging programming that does what you intend it to do: connect you with your peers, empower you to further your career, and help you provide meaningful experiences for the folks you lead and for your clients. So I'm sure you're eager to get to the award ceremony, and we will. But before we do, I promised you another engaging session, and that is what we've got, an exciting treat to wrap up today's programming. It is now my distinct pleasure to welcome back to the virtual stage a man who still needs no introduction, and yet I have been paid to give him a second one anyway. Mr. Mike Vanderveer and his 5 fellow regional and virtual facilitators taking us into the Invention Lab for an afternoon of looking straight ahead and reimagining the future of meetings. So he's coming back all the way from Taiwan. Let's see if we can dial him in, use that UHF knob, that fine tune. Remember that fine tuning on the UHF dial? Let's get him in there. Mike, are you with us? I think it's like 2 in the morning.
I think I am.
There he is.
Hello, Greg. Yes.
Mike,
yes.
Welcome back.
Thank you, Greg. Thank you for that glorious introduction. It is 4:47 to be precise here in Taiwan.
So you've gone through dinner and you're all the way to the first pot of coffee, Mike. Is that what you're telling us?
It's 4:47 in the night, Greg.
In the night? I'm sorry. All right, so you're having cocktails too, I suppose. So Mike, what is this session going to entail that we've got? Tell us a little bit about it.
This morning we worked in the past. But we asked everybody to look into the future intrepidly. And that's what we're going to ask everybody to do this afternoon. We're going to invent things. I'm going to explain to everybody what we're going to invent, how we're going to invent it, and we're going to hand it over to the regional facilitators again to make sure that everything that we have planned will happen. The idea is in each of the pods and virtually as well, let's see if we can invent something that will delight your customers in the future.
That sounds exciting. Well, let me get out of here. Let me let you and the regional facilitators take over, and we'll see you again after this program for the awards ceremony. All right, okay, Mike, Greg, take it away, sir.
Many thanks, many thanks. Right, everyone. So, as I just said, it's time to see what we can do with an intrepid mind for the future. We're going to focus on working in small groups of 6. And in those groups, we're going to challenge you to come up with something new, something revolutionary, something that Times Magazine perhaps would write about. And you will explain later what exactly Times Magazine or Newsweek would mean in this context. Here's what we're going to do. So first of all, we're going to focus on 4 themes. 4 themes that each of you can choose freely in your groups. So you agree on that in the little groups that are going to be formed in the pods and virtually thanks to the help of Katie. The themes are technology, food and beverage, people, HR, recruitment, anything to do with getting the right people in your organization and keeping them, and last but not least, social responsibility. These are the 4 themes that we have. Now, Each of you is going to work, and this one has been assigned, each of you is going to work with a certain year of reference. So to keep it not too difficult for you guys who are here virtually, your year of reference is 2023. So in 2 years from now, for one of these 4 themes, what do you think you can invent to make sure that your guests in your venue will have an experience that will delight them? We're going to make it a bit more difficult for Chicago. Your year of reference is 2028, so that's 7 years from now. And the year of reference for Dallas and Delaware is 2033. Now, to get you going on the themes, we have a distinguished lineup of experts who have been willing to share some thoughts about what they see happening in that future, opening up their crystal balls for you and telling you what they think is likely to be going on at that time. So we are going to share their insights. We have 4 of them present virtually and 1 of them present live. So we're going to do all of the virtual presentations in a video first, and then we're going to go to John Bridge, who is in Chicago and who's going to talk on the theme of people and recruitment at HR. But we'll first start with a lady whom I'm sure we all know by now as IACC community, Jessie States from MPI. She is the person who knows so much about meetings that she's not going to go into one of these 4 areas. She's actually going to talk about all of them. So could we first have Jessie States' video, please?
Hi, my name is Jessie States, and I'm the director of the MPI Academy for Meeting Professionals International. And I wanted to share a phenomenon that I'm seeing in the marketplace right now called ECFH. That's empty classrooms, full hallways. What we're seeing as meetings begin to reemerge in the North American marketplace is that our learners no longer are interested in sitting in classrooms to hear from subject matter experts or industry leaders. What they really want to do is reconnect with each other in very real ways and share stories, best practices, new normals that they've encountered over the last 18 months. There's this thrill of reconvening and learning from one another that can't be replicated in the online space. So they're looking for their subject matter-based learning in a digital experience, and they're looking for something completely different when they come together in person. There's this ongoing shift before the pandemic away from expert-led learning to social or peer-based learning, and the pandemic only accelerated that shift. MPI for many, many years has experimented with unique formats, and IACC for years has ensured spaces that are purpose-built for the adult learning principles of collaboration and shared experience. Now is our moment. Now is the time when our learners are actually ready for that transition, where they're craving experiences that bring them together with other learners to share and learn together. MPI doesn't see a complete revert to the past at this particular moment. We know that the learning environment has made a significant shift. And while we may return to some of our more tried and true formats, there is going to be a continued interest from learners to experiment with new ways in which they can make the right connections in the right context at the right moment for them. And that can only be done in the in-person environment. So how are we designing experiences that matter for them? Our industries associations like MPI and IACC, these alliances are perfect for us to think about how we collaborate together, not only to design the spaces that are so integral to the in-person collaboration process, but also the types of formats that can help bring people together to have real-world conversations in a safe place that's perfect for them to learn.
Excellent. That was Jesse States from MPI. Jesse should be with us in Dallas. So at a later stage, if you want to, you can inquire further with her. Remember that wrote it down, empty classrooms, full hallways, ECFH. Increasingly in the course of the next decade, we will see people wanting to learn from one another much more than from somebody who's on stage. Next in line, we have our friend Mariella McElwraith, the VP for Sustainability and Industry Advancements with the Events Industry Council. Mariella too has a video with ideas on what's going to happen in the course of the next 2, 7, and 12 years. So could we have Mariella's video, please, now?
Hello, I'm Mariella McElwraith, Vice President of Sustainability and Industry Advancement with the Events Industry Council. When we talk about social impact, we're talking about the catalytic value that results from our industry that goes beyond our significant economic impact. By bringing people together, we also build relationships, we strengthen communities, we develop and share knowledge, and we innovate solutions to some of the world's greatest challenges. In the next 2 years, I project that our industry will focus on accelerating equity and inclusion and driving positive social change for our workforce and the communities where we meet and those that we serve. We will intentionally design our events and career and leadership pathways to be welcoming and accessible and where everyone feels a sense of belonging. We'll also support a more diverse, fair, and equitable supply chain through our buying power. And we will further our work as champions against human trafficking. We will also develop benchmarks for all of these critical social impact areas. In 5 years' time, we'll be able to demonstrate progress forward from these benchmarks. And in 10 years' time, well, we'll have changed the world because what we do in our sector touches and inspires every sector. Thank you.
Thank you, Mariella. Absolutely fabulous. We're going to change the world in 12 years' time. That's excellent. I think that is a lofty task for all of us, and we're going to start through applying more equity and inclusion in our own organizations in the next couple of years, and then benchmarking and measuring all of that. Good. On the topic of technology, we have Matt Harvey with a highly condensed video. So be sure not to miss anything of what he's saying. Make some notes for later if you want to tackle technology as a topic. Let's have Matt's video, please.
Hey, America's Connect. Matt Harvey here. I'm Encore's Vice President of Virtual and Hybrid Events, and here's my technology trends for the next few years. In the next 2 years, I think we're going to see hyper-personalization of content, letting attendees choose both the content itself and how they consume it. Secondly, in the next 2 years, I think we'll see a return to augmented reality eyewear. Personally, I can't wait to have LinkedIn on my glasses so that I can tell when I last met somebody at a networking reception. And third and finally, for 2 years out, I think we're going to see a consolidation of event data. There is a ton of event data out there right now, but none of it is really organized in a way that allows us to drive useful insights. So think about how your CRM, your registration, your mobile apps, and all that other event data could come together and drive a different outcome. Looking a little bit further ahead, 5 years into the future, I think we're going to start to see sensory analytics take a really big role in the meeting space. This is the idea that you can use artificial intelligence to tell how a room full of people is feeling. Kind of a little bit creepy now. I think it'll take time to drive some acceptance, but 5 years from now, I think it's going to be everywhere. And then secondly, 5 years out, I think we'll have internet capability absolutely everywhere. And I mean internet capability with, for video streaming and all of that cool stuff that, normally we need fixed connections for. And this is down to the invention of the Starlink satellite constellation and other similar technologies from other providers as well. Looking even further ahead into the future, 10 years down the road, I think we're going to see artificial intelligence as an augmentation of the events and meeting space. I think of all those recommendation engines and how much better and more efficient you could make a meeting if you used artificial intelligence to enhance elements of it. And then finally, 10 years from now, I think we'll also be looking at a whole different landscape in terms of the speed of international travel. Like SpaceX is already talking about getting from LA to Shanghai in less than an hour. And what would that do to how you think about meetings? Finally, I wanted to end with some things I don't think are going to change, and that's human nature. Humans are going to continue to have a strong desire to meet in person. And I think, the concept of sharing ideas, being together and collaborating are here to stay.
Well, thank you, Matt. That was very, very fast and insightful. A lot of new things are going to happen. But at the same time, Matt pointed out that some things are going to stay the same, and that's a very important thing to bear in mind. People will remain human beings, and they will remain needful of each other. Let's go to our next theme. We've had technology, we've had sustainability, we haven't done yet food and beverage. Let's listen to Murray Hall, the executive chef of Dolce Hotels and Resorts. Murray, too, has a video recorded for us. Let's listen to it. Murray's video, please.
Good day, everybody. Welcome to IACC America's 2021 Connect. My name is Murray Hall, Executive Chef of the Bank of Montreal Institute for Learning here in Toronto, and I've been asked to speak with everybody today about what some of the food and beverage future is going to look like for all of us. So if we take 2 years from now, I still think we're going to be dealing with limited buffet options. We're going to be dealing with how we serve buffets a little bit differently. We're still going to see some a la carte options in there. And unfortunately, I still do see us doing some sort of continual packaging, individual packaging of items for our customers as well, too. So I do see that still in our future. But if we skip forward to 5 years, I see that that's probably going to go away. And I do see more of the trends coming back that we've been facing back in 2019 was a rise of plant forward, a rise in flexitarian eating, a rise in veganism as well, too. So I think we're going to see a lot more of that push continuing for healthy eating, local eating, and definitely some more plants being center focused on our plate. In 10 years, it really is almost, sorry about the food pun, but reading the tea leaves here. But I do see us continuing to gain momentum in the plant forward, continuing to gain momentum in the flexitarian diets, but also I do see us really looking at a really multicultural mix of eating and a mix of dining options out there. The young chefs that are in the system today that are going to be 10 years from now creating the trends for all of us to follow, I think we're going to really be able to see some fun stuff coming on the menus where we're going to be able to enjoy some national cuisines, some cultural cuisines, and also a lot of hybrid mashed together cuisines as well too, where I think we're going to have an exciting time in the next 10 years, culinary wise, eating wise, and exploring different foods and different options. So thank you very much and enjoy the conference, and I'll see everybody soon.
Excellent. That was Murray Hall, and looking into the tea leaves rather than eating them in spite of an increase in flexitarianism. Then we have, finally, for the theme of HR recruitment, we have live in Chicago with us John Britch. John is with Global Searchwide, a recruitment agency, I believe. John, can we hear each other?
Yes.
Excellent, excellent. So, John, just like the others in by means of video have done before you, could you share some of your thoughts about what's going to happen in the area of HR recruitment, people management in the next 12 years, broken down by those 2, 7, and 12-year timeframes?
Yeah, absolutely. And hello from Chicago. In 2 years, we still see that talent is going to be an issue in our industry. So that's not going away. So we have to stay very close to that. Companies, the good ones, will be recruiting and educating our industry at the high school level. Some are doing this now, but you're going to see more focus on that in 2 years. Also in 2 years, you're going to see DE&I be at the core of the org chart, if not sooner. In 7 years, You're
John,
going to see
DE&I, maybe for some of the people, it'd be good to explain that abbreviation.
diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Thank you.
Yes. In 7 years, you're going to see more artificial intelligence, data analytics. The cost of this technology will hopefully come down, so more will use it. And companies will be diving into recruiting and educating more at the younger generation, so before high school, to get an early start to create that pipeline that we've been talking about more and more. And then in 12 years, now this is going to probably shock some people, that we will not have resumes anymore. In fact, we'll have video footage of candidates' success, productivity, skill set, how they match up with the brand. And again, that will eliminate the resume. And that's it.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. You say we're going to hire people even during high school part of their career already, but are we moving into the area where we're going to get them at primary school sometime? Let's think about that for the next 50 years, maybe. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go into what we have called the Invention Lab, where we're going to ask you, with the help of our local pod facilitators and Katie for the people in the virtual pod, to come up with an invention. And the invention should be a future mindset or feature for your venue that will give it a competitive advantage in that year, and that will delight your meeting participants in that venue. So what is a feature or mindset for your venue that will give it a competitive advantage and that will delight your meeting participants? So remember, we've got 4 themes. You can choose from those freely. We have the reference years which have been assigned: 2023 for virtual, 2028 for Chicago, and 2033 for Dallas and Delaware. And then your local facilitators will tell you all about the format in which you're going to produce your invention, because you don't think we're going to just ask you to tell us about it. That would be too predictable. No, in all of your pods, you will see a whole series of materials that you're going to work with, and that will express your invention in a fun and engaging way. So with that, I'd like to hand it over to the local facilitators. Our experts will be ready at hand for some comments afterwards. Once we share your inventions, your local facilitators know what's going to come next, how to select the inventions, and we're going to present those in about 45 minutes from now. Have fun, and I'm looking forward to seeing everybody back. Remember the teachings from your keynote speakers about disruption, about creative thinking, about how the human brain reacts to music, and do your best to come up with the most innovative things that you can think of in order to delight the customers in your venue. Have fun and see you later. Well, we're back, and we're back. We've had a slight lack of continuity between the live pods and the virtual pods. It was with all the many virtual people taking part, it took some time for Katie to get the voting and everything ready, but I believe we're now ready, and I can see already in Chicago that Nancy looks very charming with her funny hat on. I can see that in Dallas and Delaware we have the winning entries on stage. So what we're going to do, ladies and gentlemen, is we're going to go from one pod to the next. In between, we're going to go to Katie, who is going to represent the inventions from the virtual participants, and we're going to listen to the winning entries, and then we're going to move over to the experts on the content that the winning entries have covered. Going from one to the other, and one of the things that, of course, not everybody knew, you knew the themes, you had the reference here, but what you didn't know was that each of the different pods had a different way of representing their inventions. So for the live pods, that was in Dallas, everybody made a painting on a flip chart. In Delaware, they had to produce something that looked like graffiti. And in Chicago, people were making a collage. So we see all of that standing on stage now. Of course, we couldn't get our virtual participants to make something as visual as that together. So we had to go for a more verbal format there. And for the virtual pods, there were 3 choices for participants. Either they wrote a thank you note from a participant who experienced the invention at that point in time in 2023. Secondly, they could choose to write the header and the first paragraph of a feature article about their invention in Time on Newsweek. And the third one is they could come up with what I called a Zen wisdom, an ancient Zen wisdom, which they invented today, and which had to start with "the master says." So let's see, when we go to Katie, which of these 3 formats the winning entries have chosen. She's going to get 2. Are we ready? And we're going to start for this series of presentations about the inventions in the order of going to Dallas first. And then the last thing I need to remind everybody of is that we have our various experts present, either virtually like Mariella and Murray, or live. We've got John Britch in Chicago, and we've got Jesse States for general issues, and Joe Santo standing in for Matt Harvey on technology. Well, with that, we're ready to go, and I'd like to give the floor to Kama in Dallas to go first. Could we see your winning entry, and could we hear what the story is behind that lovely painting there? Kama, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. And round of applause for Dallas, because we just had a lot of fun and did a lot of work. That was awesome. I will say, if we can just scroll here over all of our paintings and work, technology touched all of them. So that was really fantastic and great to see, because we did have the year 2033, so how could it not, right? But we'll scroll over here to the winning invention, which is Nutritional Analytics. So somehow in the year 2033, we can either touch a phone. We're definitely not going to spit anymore, right, Creston? Because that's going to be so old news. We don't need to mail anything in. It'll go automatically to some sort of device. We're going to have something cooler than a tablet by then. It'll go to a device, and then the data would then go to the facility or the property to then get a report to know what your body needs. So this is you. You go into the DNA or data, and it says, she needs to eat more vegetables. That's going to make her really happy. But whatever your body's craving or your body needs, all of those things would come through, and then the venue is able to write menus based on the majority of needs for that group, that person, what have you, ultimately resulting in happy people, healthy people, and meeting attendees that want to come back to that venue who supports this kind of process. So touching technology, touching food and beverage, touching people, and for me, touching diet, which is my favorite. So great job, very good.
Excellent. And I see indeed a lot of the hats, a lot of the party hats went to that
there
one.
You go.
So it was the best one that you had in Dallas. Great. So we've heard the explanation. With that, I think it's good to see that this is definitely something I'd like to ask Murray Hall, who is virtually with us, to comment on. And then afterwards, we're going to go to Joe Santo, who's live in Dallas. But let's go to Murray, one of our virtual experts first. Murray, what about nutritional analytics and allowing people to then have the right dietary choices?
Thanks, Mike. Anything to make a chef's life easier, I am 100% on par. I'm there. No problems at all. I love the idea. I love the fact that nutrition is taking center focus, because that is where we're going to right now. The nutrition side of things is really becoming center of the plate. Vegetables, vegan, low fat, and good calories. So if you're looking at just having calories could be a deep fried chicken, it could be a hamburger, it could be French fries. How do you take those calories, make them good calories, where you're looking at something that is actually sustainable for you, low in carbohydrates, low in sugar, low in fat, maybe it's a great natural fruit or a vegetable that's going to come out and it's going to really complement that dish you're eating. And I find that is something that's happening. I'm seeing that now, where people are concerned about the calories they have and they're focusing on what calories are going to give them the most nutritional value, the most energy, and hopefully, maybe even lose a little bit of weight as well too. So I love the presentation. It looks great. Well done.
Okay, lovely. Thank you. Thank you, Murray. We have live in Dallas, Joe Santo. So could we go to Joe? And Joe, could you comment on the technology side of this? Because this is an interesting invention here, which combines food and technology.
Yep. Thank you, Mike. I think this is great technology, purposeful technology for a positive outcome and experience is really what it's about. And I think I don't have a lot to say. This is a great idea.
Is it feasible? Does it look feasible to you?
It looks very feasible to me. I mean, the whole hand thing, I'm not that anatomy part of it, but I think that's probably something that is in the not too distant future.
Right. Could you comment on the spitting, please?
Sure.
Yeah. So we'll have the hand instead of the spit. That's the idea, right?
Maybe we can find some technology to help that too. Not really sure.
Okay. Okay. Great, Joe. Thank you. Let's. Next to you is Jesse, I believe. Could we go to Jesse? Jesse, from the point of view of participant experience. And did you see any of the connection with the stuff that you discussed in the video, or would you like to comment on that from your learning your MPI Academy perspective?
I think that anything that helps our learners learn better is a good thing. And what we know is healthy guts are really important for the learning experience. And we also know that certain superfoods help with concentration, for example. And so knowing what areas our attendees might have deficiency in and being able to supplement that in real time on site could provide some really, really great impacts, not only for the learning itself, but also for the ways in which they engage with each other.
Great. Many thanks for that. Okay, that's Dallas. Let's move on to our second pod. Let's move to Delaware. And in Delaware, the winning entry has produced a poster full of graffiti. Sean, the floor is yours.
All right. Thanks, Mike. So from over here, it was quite an interesting voting process. If you can scroll this way a little bit, you'll see some of the other entries that were put in. Can you get over that way? Can you scroll to those? And down. And you see our wine bottles. Don't mind our wine bottles. We had some creative juice while we were going. So we had quite a little bit around technology, quite a lot all around people. We did have a voting scandal over here because party line voting was from the three groups was pretty stern. So we called in some outsiders to cast some votes. But at the end, Marco and his team were the winners, and I have Marco here. He's going to explain what they put together.
Thank you very much. So a little less graffiti, a little more focus on a Time magazine cover, where we were really looking forward into a cover in 2033 where a company like Hilton or Benchmark develops a system through high school programs, eventually leading into hospitality magnet schools for kids as they're growing into work programs to develop skills in the culinary industry, the hospitality industry, and have an opportunity to go through these programs almost like a trade school, and really develop these skills that will really help them get away from hefty priced college programs, and give them real life skills to get a job in this industry of their choice, and put much more focus on passion and a career that they're going to fall in love with.
Awesome.
Okay, great.
Thank you very much, Marco.
Yeah, that looks wonderful. Yeah. Now, on that Time magazine cover, we see this person sitting on planet Earth. Is that correct?
It is. What's the artistic genre behind the child sitting on the planet Earth?
It's the children taking over the world with their new work programs.
It's the children taking over the hospitality world with their new work programs.
I'm very much in favor of children taking over the world. I think
I'm sure you are.
I think we would all be much the better for it, instead of the politicians we have throughout. Let's see if we can get John Bridge to comment on this. He's in Chicago, if I'm correct. So, John, a hospitality magnet school for children who are going to take over the world. How does that sound for 2033? Yeah,
I love it too. I mean, the children are their future, as they sing and say. No, I think it's really, you got to think about, okay, how it's going to fund and all that other stuff. But you're creating this talent, and you're creating it from such a younger generation, and then it's going to come up to your different properties. I think every brand ownership should take a look at something. I'm sure they have. They just haven't figured out how to do it successfully, full circle. But well done. I love it.
Yeah, great. And I think it's also interesting to hear a comment from Mariella on this one, because there is clearly an aspect of social responsibility in this too. So could we go to Mariella, who is with us virtually from Toronto?
Thank you. Yes. And I think that this is an excellent opportunity for us to really think about building capacity to focus on making sure that our future workforce is really diverse and equitable, that we're thinking about inclusion at all aspects of the onboarding of future workers, and also I would add in making sure that the program is truly accessible, and a focus on how we can recruit and retain more people with disabilities into our workforce is really something that will be beneficial to all of us, and in part because it will actually help make our events better. The more perspectives that we have within our workforce, looking at diversity, equity, inclusion, accessibility, it really will make for a much brighter future for us. In addition, I would say, thinking about where this program is located and looking at the events that are taking place locally, and seeing if there's a possibility of excellent knowledge transfer from some of the experts that are being brought into communities to participate in events, I think can really strengthen those programs as well. Okay.
Many thanks, Mariella. Great. Could we go just back to Delaware once more? Because I was talking while this was all taking shape with Murray here backstage, and we were looking at those 3 books, and we couldn't figure out the titles of the books, but we would like to have those titles for everybody to be understood. So, Sean, can we hear the artist who produced?
Yeah. I thought we were gonna. Yep, you got it. All right. I don't know if you can see these. It's Culinary 3, Hotels 201, and Wine and Spirits. Of course, Wine and Spirits had to come in here because we just finished a wine tasting, and we actually had wine on the table when we were creating these. So that has to be a part of the program.
Right. They're very good. You need to get your priorities right with your children.
That's right. Yeah, make sure that they get their wine, especially when they're like 5. That's a good thing to start them on.
Yeah. Okay, great. Lovely. Thanks for that. Good. That was Delaware. Could we have a round of applause from all pods for Delaware, please? Great. And now let's move to our virtual facilitator, Katie. Hi, Katie. You have had a number of groups virtually, and I believe, if all is well, that 2 entries have come out as winners there. Is that correct?
We actually had a tie. So we've got 3, if I can squeeze it in. We had 1 overall winner, and then we had 2 that ended in a tie. So I think.
Okay. Take it away, Katie. Let's hear it.
I don't know how I follow the children and the wine, but we're gonna try. We got some pretty outstanding inventions here. So the first one was presented by our 3rd group, led by Karen, and it was the food and beverage topic. And they had a really, really interesting, really great innovation and invention. So their challenge they were solving for was that, how to bring food and beverage to a place that's more of a learning experience. It invokes memories, it invokes your senses, but but while the world is moving more towards a grab and go contactless type of environment. And so their invention is a kiosk where when you go to the kiosk to get your food, it actually maybe would play a short video about where that food product is from. You'd hear the voices, you'd see some of the ingredients, really feel like you're experiencing where that food came from versus just ordering a sandwich off of a kiosk. So a much more immersive experience, yet still in a contactless, efficient manner like the world is moving towards. And they chose to express it through a thank you note. So would you like me to share that too, Mike?
Yes, share, absolutely.
Perfect. So their thank you note was, Carlos and team wanted to personally thank you and your team for my unending gratitude for taking me back in time to a place I haven't been for some while. I lost my wife 45 years ago and was surprised and delighted by your culinary experience. I stepped up to the kiosk and it took me on a trip around the world. It felt like I was back in time traveling with my wife. Thank you.
Very good. And I can imagine that was the winner, because in addition to talking about emotional experience in what you offer your delegates, the actual message has an emotional experience in itself. So that is really good communication. Thank you, Katie. Murray, who was with us virtually from Montreal, I believe. What do you think of this idea? Any comments?
I love the idea personally. The one thing of an elevated kiosk and elevated service setting with information there on demand for customers is great. Everybody's looking for where their food is coming from. What is the nutritional value? Can I get this a larger size, a smaller size? I'm seeing a lot of this stuff now. Even last month, I was at the airport in Toronto, and some of the kiosks, a lot of them were closed, but some of them are really elevated that presentation, really elevated that information from either being iPads to, if we go down the road, maybe it's like even holograms or something that would come up, or something you can scan with your phone and automatically be able to even order it, pay for it, and just pick it up, but also get that data as well too. Technology and food is going to be mushed together, immersed together very quickly. And I think it's only going to gain a lot of speed. So well done. I love it.
Great. Many thanks for that comments, Murray. Let's go back to Katie. You have two more, the two ties for second place. Let's call it that way. Katie, what's the next invention you are going to share with us?
Thanks, Mike. So the next invention, that team was our group one. It was led by Lundy, and they chose the topic of human resources. And they had a really, really great invention to solve for how to keep a candidate engaged to the entire hiring process. We know sometimes the hiring process can be quite lengthy from the time of first applying until when the candidate actually starts at your location. So they've come up with a really creative solution to help with that through using VR. And the team also chose to express it through a quick thank you note. And the thank you note was, thank you so much for providing me with the Oculus VR goggles that demonstrated a day in the life of what working here would be like. It made my first day so much easier to adjust and become part of the team.
Okay, great. And clearly with this topic and with this thank you note, we're going to go to Chicago, to John. And John, is this a realistic thing? Or do you know of any employers already doing something of this nature, engaging their candidates for positions this way?
You know what? I've heard of some things. The goggles, the day in the life, and showing them, that is something new. I think I have not seen or heard that, but it's so important because you talk about a day in the life, but if you could actually show them, that's even better. I think keeping engaged. What year was this for again? 33. This
was soon. This is in 2 years from now.
Okay, we do that now because the length of time from keeping candidates engaged. We were talking about this in our group. The process is taking some companies too long, and you lose candidates, right? So, but that step will help keep them. But if we could shorten that hiring process, that'd be great. But I think it's awesome. Good job.
Yeah. Okay, lovely. And let's also hear from Mariella virtually, please. Mariella, the idea of extending or shortening the period, or rather concentrating the candidate's attention on the job by means of a day in the life or similar videos. Would that improve social inclusion as well?
I think it has the potential to do that. And I think that as well, if we are looking at the technology that's being used and making sure that that accessibility is built into the technology, I think that would be an added benefit to that consideration. And I think anything that helps, speed the access for people to be working, I think will be a definite benefit for us in the next immediate future, given our need to ramp up our hiring across the board.
Right. Thank you. And then let's go back to Katie again. Katie, third invention from the virtual pods. And I see your big smile, so this one must be good as well.
They're all good. This one focused on technology. Mike, you would have thought I assigned categories. Every group picked a different one, so it worked out really well. So this was group 2, led by Chelsea. And their challenge they were solving for was integrating an event app in just a more comprehensive way than maybe we've seen to date through a more robust virtual concierge platform. So incorporating virtual check-in as well as a virtual chat bot once you've arrived, on top of contactless options for getting your food, maybe getting retail items when you're at the conference. They even talked about being able to go from the conference venue, maybe back to their hotel, and still be able to log in and view the conference if they needed to go back to take a work call. So a really fully immersive, comprehensive virtual concierge platform. And this team chose a thank you note as well. That was the popular one of our teams here. So their thank you note was, Dear Mary, I wanted to start by explaining how appreciative I was, but truly apprehensive, really, to attend your conference in person. I had some challenges while traveling there, but it was really refreshing to have the virtual concierge platform available upon my arrival. I was blown away with the flexibility. I was able to take some calls from my room and still attend the session on my television. Thank you so much.
Okay. Great, Katie. Thank you so much for those inventions. And let's move to John in Chicago. To Joe in Dallas. Because tech was this theme here. Joe, a virtual concierge in the form of an app. Yep. What would it take to build that?
Well, that exists now, Mike. Those apps, or what we call engagement platforms, are out there in abundance. They are extremely robust. Some can scale all the way up to what Katie was saying. We haven't seen food and beverage come into play right now in some of these apps, but that is not far down the road. I mean, this is a reality now. It's all about engagement right now, and the virtual audiences has really put these apps or engagement platforms on steroids to try to catch up to making sure that when you're not in a meeting face-to-face, you feel like you're part of the program. And I think that's what it's all about. Right now, these apps can live as long as a month after the program, so that you can continue to engage, you can continue to collaborate, you can continue to get content. So
right.
It's here.
Does that work? Does that work in your feeling? Does it work on a small screen such as a phone as well?
It does.
Or does it require some of the things that Matt has been talking about in his video, like glasses where you have LinkedIn profiles projected on top, Oculus goggles, those kinds of things?
The glasses aren't here yet. Certainly they are probably not far down the road, given the fact that Oculus goggles and VR are pretty commonplace, and AR is really starting to emerge. And I think that glasses will just follow. The refining of the glasses will just follow suit. I think we don't think Encore doesn't think virtual is just a solution to a pandemic. We think it's going to live on in a lot of different formats in a lot of different ways. And it's only going to get more robust. These applications or platforms will continue to evolve into something that is going to be very interactive.
Right. Could you again, please, hand the mic to Jesse, who's next to you, because I think if you have that kind of platform, it would be a small step, perhaps, Jesse, to also extend that to the learning experience of participants, rather than only being a concierge function, which does like sort of the logistics bits. So, what's your take on that?
I'm very interested in this intersectionality of the learning experience and the event app, and also how that app integrates with all of the other apps that you might be using for your meeting or event. For example, could your event concierge app also connect to your airline check-in? Could it connect to the facilities technology so that you are only in one place and you are accessing all of these different touch points? I am getting my hotel room key. I'm all of these different points at which I need a technology. Can those all function within the event app itself? And then how do we also integrate our event apps with some of the online learning technologies like Mural, for example, so that that I'm also interacting with everybody else within that one space?
Right, great. Many thanks, Jesse. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, let's move back to from the virtual pods back to our last live pod, Chicago. So, Nancy, are you with us to present your winning invention from Chicago, which is beautifully adorned by a very large number of silly hats?
Excellent. We are back. And glad to be here now. There's a familiar face that made one of our flip charts, and we just wanted to make sure that Paul was recognized being golden. I'm sorry to tell him it wasn't the one that got the most party hats. But nonetheless, we wanted you to see Paul making the headlines here. And technology was the theme throughout, and our year here was 2028. And I'm going to turn it over to my girl, Letitia, and she is going to walk you through her group's winning.
Hi, everybody. Hi from Chicago.
Hello, Letitia.
So I am Latasha. I'm here to present our new app. It is called Custom Culinary. So we want to solve several issues in the hospitality world. No longer do we want the back and forth in between the front of the house and the back of the house, food and beverage. We want to get rid of that. Sometimes it's a last minute change by the guest. Sometimes it's a breakdown of communication. But Custom Culinary is going to fix that. The second thing we're going to fix is also the need and the desire nowadays to just be involved in the process. That's why everybody likes Blue Apron, as well as HelloFresh. So we're going to combine those two pieces and create something great where you have the power of personal. So essentially, it's a fun app that's going to ask you, are you a picky eater? Maybe you are. If you select yes, then we're going to give you a few photos to opt for when it comes to your lunch. Then based on those photos, we'll have something that's very high end as well as something a little bit more basic for our picky eater. So it'll be visual, it'll be hands-on, and again, it loops in the communication between front of the house and back of the house and gets your attendees already involved and engaged in the process.
Excellent.
Right. A round of applause.
Yeah, we love it.
All of that. Yeah, excellent. And I'd like to give the opportunity to Murray, our virtual chef today, to say something about another merger that we see here between technology and food and beverage. So Murray, any comments?
Absolutely, Mike. I think information is power. And when it comes to information about getting what the customer is after in a timely manner to the kitchen and being able to make sure that we can execute on that in a fast, creative way that's going to meet and exceed your expectations is only a win-win for me. I mean, I love the mesh up when it comes to the culinary side of it. I love the technology import into it. And to your point as well, too, the HelloFresh boxes that people are taking at home now and really experimenting over what happened in COVID and really stepping out of their comfort zone of food that trend is going to continue on when we all go back to restaurants, we all go back to meetings. We're going to have that person that only wants a little bit of butter and a lot of olive oil and what they want to have. So, and being able to customize that and get that information to the culinary team and to the front of the house team in a really good, fast manner, an effective manner, and making sure that there's all the checks and balances along the way so that customer gets the meal they're expecting and is wowed by it. I love it.
Okay, great. Thank you, Chicago. Your app has the solution. Well done. Lovely invention.
Thank you.
Great. So let's all capture the last comments from IAC director Mark Cooper, who is in Dallas. Mark, can I hand it over to you for some final comments on all the inventions that you've seen?
Absolutely, Mike. And everybody, it's great to see you and be here at the end of such a creative session. It's interesting how we all took those 4 topics and interwove the importance of them all into each and every idea. The creativity that we've seen has been awesome, and it just, for me, just told me that the journey we've taken on together today since 8 o'clock, since we did the Feed the City, right the way through to looking past, looking forward, just channeled all our energy into what we've done. As an industry, it's interesting because I think even though the pods that looked at 2023, 2033, should I say, that far in advance, none of them felt like they were totally untouchable and unreachable. And I think the one thing, again, the last 2 years has done to us, it's kind of just freed our minds of the barriers that we used to have in the past. And if you remember right at the beginning when we dropped all of those pieces of paper into the bowl, it was, let's get rid of uncertainty. Let's get rid of fear of thinking big. And it just oozed out in everything that you all did. The other point that I'll make as well is one that is causing a little bit of an issue here in Dallas for everybody, and that was the use of alcohol and the reference to children in Delaware. Now, somebody has to make a decision on this, and I don't want to use the word disqualification too lightly. However, in their defense, they are 1 hour ahead of us. They are officially in cocktail hour now. So we must give them a little bit of freedom there. And to be honest with you, I know a few of the gang over there in Delaware, it probably helped with their creativity, to be honest. So, I think on this occasion, we're going to let that one slip. The other point that I want to make is one that we're all sitting here thinking, how does he do it? And that's, how does our master facilitator join an event, run a session, go to bed for 2 hours, come back and make the connections that you, Mike, have done between these stories, this creative thinking, this blue sky thinking, and bringing in our content experts in the way you have. I can't think on my feet like that after 4 coffees and being awake for 6 hours. So how you did it, I do not know. But thank you, because we're all appreciative of it. It's been a great session. And on that note, I'm going to hand back.
Many thanks, Mark. So here's the answer to your query. Anyway, so thanks everybody. This was it was a joy to see all of your work. It was a joy to see the results, and it was also a joy to see all those funny hats ending up in various places. I think it's with this we come to an end of our invention room. We come to an end of this learning lab, this invention lab. I'd like to thank all of our experts, Jesse, Joe, Murray, John and Mariella, for their comments, also quickly off the cuff and immediately responding to some things that were totally unpredictable. Great work from everybody. Could we have a round for our experts, please? A round of applause. And with that, I'd like to hand it back to Greg in Delaware. Thank you, and hope to see you soon again.
Thank you. Now, much like in that video we saw during Daniel's keynote, the metamorphosis of a butterfly. We're about to go through a metamorphosis. It is the end of the conference experience and the beginning of a celebration. We're going to take a brief 30-minute break, but when we come back, we're going to begin the award ceremony, and it's an experience you're not going to want to miss. So we'll see you back here soon.